very quick overview of the book is about two people who are married, hence the word American marriage, and one party, being Roy, is wrongfully accused and sent to prison, and the book is basically about whether their marriage survives. That's the quick synopsis.
If you could just, everyone, we'll start with you, Stephen, just give a rating of the book, 1 to 5, 5 being good, 1 being not good.
5. This is my book, man. I loved it. It was 5.
My God. Okay, Trina.
I give it a 5 too, because I couldn't stop. Like, I know we said we was gonna read half of it, and I got to the halfway point, and I was like, no, because I need to figure out what else is going on. So I give it a 5.
Christian.
I give it a 5 too. It was really interesting. I finished it today, so
Everything should be fresh. Patana.
I want to give it a 5, but I give it a 4 because I didn't like the way it ended. I'm so mad.
I would give it 4.5, 5, just from the writing perspective of the book.
I agree with Patana, so it's a 4 for me.
Hey, Roy. I don't know, I liked it, but I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Emotional. And I say that because the book, it took me through. I felt, for the most part, for everyone. Like, I understood everyone's perspective, so it emotionally was messing with me, which tied me into reading it more and trying to see where it was going to go.
Oh, this is hard. Gosh. Maybe heart-wrenching, maybe. Only because of one side, one person's character, that person being Roy. He went through a lot, and we'll discuss it, but I just think that he, had the most to lose. He did lose the most, and it was kind of heart-wrenching to read his story from his point of view.
Okay. Wendy.
It's realistic. I feel like that could easily happen in real life.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Trina's word, emotional, because it was very emotional.
I didn't get that.
Really?
I didn't get why you guys cried.
I was waiting. I feeling emotional, but I didn't cry at all.
Oh, I
But
did.
let's not get.
Well, okay, we'll get to that part that we cried about.
I probably would just I would probably describe it as savagery, because it's just, it's annoying from the criminal justice standpoint, it's annoying from friendship standpoint, and it's annoying from relationships. And for me, all of those intersections were just savagery, in my opinion.
It was so annoying. That's such a good word.
Yeah.
The word I was thinking, and then Wendy said it, was realistic. But now I'm like, yeah, it was savage. That's the most annoying thing that can happen to a person.
I know.
Yeah, with what he said.
Savage and realistic. Christian.
I'm gonna say well written. I think she portrayed everyone very well,
I agree.
and just the whole outline of it was really well written. That's what I liked about it mainly.
Who will you all consider to be the protagonists in the book?
Roy.
Roy, yeah. We'll go with
Roy.
I didn't like any of them. I know I said that I liked Roy better than anyone else's, but then towards the end, I was like, there's things about him, like when he even says it when he couldn't go off. And
I mean, I hope I don't know, huge chance.
Yeah, okay. But he even says it, there's things that I don't like about him, when he was saying that he purposely wanted to get Celeste mad, or Celestial mad, or...
What are you saying, he's the protagonist or not?
Oh.
What's your answer to the question?
I don't know. Yeah, he's the protagonist.
I think Andre's the antagonist.
I agree.
Anyone else think anybody else is the antagonist? They say Andre over here. What
The
about you, Joe?
antagonist.
Yeah.
Can't say that there was one, but
Yeah.
if we had to name one, we'll say Andre. But
I think Roy.
that's one of the
Okay.
questions. That's one of the questions that we'll talk about later. Like,
Right.
you know, who was wrong, who was right. Like, so yeah. But I'll say Andre for the point of answering.
Okay. I didn't answer the question. I probably would say the mom, Olive.
The antagonist.
She was really in it.
I mean, it's my opinion.
The antagonist.
because-
Also main character.
Because at the end of the day, Roy, even when she wasn't there, she was present. She was always a factor and his deciding and decisions. And so for me, that's why she would be the antagonist.
I think
Go ahead.
Celestial is the antagonist because I think she was pulling more strings than anybody else. And so
Right.
she made me very upset just from a female's perspective. I was not banging with her at all.
At all.
By the halfway point. I was over her.
Okay.
Yeah.
The book is called An American Marriage, and I kind of wanted to go around the room and maybe ask everyone what their ideas of marriage, and do you think Roy and Celestial's idea of marriage were on the same page?
Marriage, in my opinion, is between two individuals who they know each other and they love each other, but you're always learning new things about people. In this case, your significant other. In regards to like Roy and Georgia, I don't think they really knew each other. So I think they were dating.
Yeah, I
How long were they? I don't know if they say how long they were dating before they got married.
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't know the
Because I
years.
think they were
They're
happy,
dating for like 2 years.
but I don't think they were marriage ready.
Oh, first of all, I think Roy was marriage ready and Celestial wasn't, because literally, how are you gonna go to, even if like that's her best friend or whatever, like Andre's her best friend, but how are you gonna go to him about all your relationship problems? When I saw that little motel, when I was reading that little motel thing where, oh yeah, and Roy was talking about, oh yeah, and you know, as always, she's calling Andre right now. I'm like, why the fuck is she calling Andre? The hell? This is your relation. This is your marriage. You're talking
That
about
part.
friend about it. You're not ready for marriage, dude.
What's your idea of marriage?
When you can really like have a partner type thing, like you don't have to console others, like you guys are mature, two people handle it together type thing without bringing third parties in and shit. Not like therapy is fine, but like other like best friends and stuff into the relationship, like y'all threesome or something. I think a marriage is like a two thing.
So I think for me, a marriage is whatever the people decide it is to
That
them.
too.
And so it could be that the marriage is an arrangement. It could be the marriage is a love. It could be marriage is a continuation of dating and getting to know each other with the hopes that you fall in love. So I guess it depends on the individual. As for Celestial and Roy, were they in a marriage? Legally, yes. Would it be an ideal marriage? Maybe Roy. I just felt like they did not communicate and were not on the same page, which leads me back to the concept of the mom, Celestial's mom, saying that they were unequally yoked. I just don't think that they were prepared to be with each other long term, in my opinion.
So for me, I think marriage is a partnership. It's two people merging their lives. So it's much more than just, we're in a relationship and that's like the next step. I think you really have to intertwine two lives to make them one and work through it together, journey through life together. And like Sean said, and make it what you feel works for the two of you. Because at the end of the day, it's ultimately those two people in that dynamic. Do I think they were marriage ready? I think Ray was actual marriage ready. I think he was ready for the work and the trials and tribulations and moving forward and working through things together in marriage. I think Celestial had a very superficial idea of what marriage is supposed to be. And so I don't think she was marriage ready. Even by the end of the book, I didn't think she was marriage ready.
When I started rereading it, one thing that I definitely picked up on is about some of the Black stereotypes. Like Roy had seemed to have a major chip on his shoulder about a lot of things. Like, for instance, being called country, he felt like the term country was indicative of him being ignorant or stupid, and so he wanted to shy away from it. But I also picked up, I called it the Clarence Thomas syndrome, that he really wanted to emphasize consistently that he didn't need a leg up or a handout on something. But in reality, throughout his progression, there was always a leg up given to him. Did you all pick up on that at all or disagree with that perspective?
I can't say that I picked up on maybe specifically what you picked up on, but I did pick up on the fact that he kind of wanted to shy away from the country stereotype, and in shying away from his country stereotype, it kind of drew him away from his family. And I saw that Olive, I think I'm going to pronounce her name that way, but I think Olive kind of resented that in a way. It kind of seemed like, okay, your city, you done gone, quote unquote, I'll use the word gone Hollywood for an analogy, but you're in the city, you're shying away from home. Like, this is your home, this is your family. Are you ashamed of where you came from? Are you ashamed of us? The fact that he got engaged and his parents didn't even meet Celestial prior to their engagement. So I just felt that I do kind of feel what you're saying. Like, he wanted to shy away so much that he kind of shut off a part of himself. And that was kind of wrong. And I think on a standpoint about leg up, like, he was just very prideful. And that's kind of a lot of how men are. They don't want to, quote unquote, take handouts, but at the same time, you can't be too prideful to ask for help. And as we see in the book, like, he needed help, especially when he got into his predicament. Like, he needed help. So that's how
I think he had a huge insecurity problem, honestly. I didn't know that I could see that as like a Black person thing. I didn't put that together, but I just thought he was like really insecure about parts of himself, like, where he came from and like who he's trying to be. But I label that as an insecurity problem because where you come from you shouldn't be ashamed of it to get to where you want to go. Like, it's just who you are.
I think it's two parts though, right? Because on one hand, he's going outside of the norm of what his family life was, right? So he gets to Morehouse. That's a whole different dynamic. That's a whole different world. That's quote unquote Black excellence. And you're supposed to look and act a certain way. And he didn't grow that way. So he's trying to fit into that world. And that causes him to want to let go of the world at home. But I also agree with Stephen that his mother was also a catalyst in pushing him that way because of the things that she would say. Like you were mentioning about not inviting Celestial to meet them until they were already engaged. Well, he also mentioned that every time he talked to his mother, she had this thing about why you always dating them light-skinned girls. So, if you put those two things together, it's like I'm trying to do better for myself and find my way in this new world. And so I have to let go of my old world because they don't get it. And he's probably getting on that side. You're supposed to be the successful one that got out, right? So you're battling the stereotypes. Just because I went to this good school now, I have no choice but to excel. Otherwise, I'm a failure at home. But when I'm in this world, I'm looked at as like a hillbilly who doesn't belong. So I think he's having that inner battle with himself before he goes to prison.
Yes, Katrina. Yes.
I agree, but I still just feel like I feel like that's what he believed that other people believe.
I mean, I guess for me, for me, the reason it bothers me or it resonates with me is that, like, for instance, him going to college, he made it a point to say, okay, well, yeah, I had to get financial aid, but Roy Sr. and Olive paid for this, that, and the third. So it's like a lot of times, it's particularly growing up as underprivileged minorities, a lot, like you take it away from just this book and you take it to free lunch. You go to high school or middle school. I know when I was in middle school and I had to get free lunch, it was an embarrassment to go up to the cash register, give my number, and I didn't have to pay because kids saw that. And so it got to the point that I told you, like, in high school, I literally would just eat a honey bun because I can go to the vending machine, I can pay, and I can show that that's not the food that I wanted. And it was difficult because you don't want to seem like the only reason you're here is because you have a handout, particularly when you go to a higher education or if you go to jobs. If you think about affirmative action, you have all those stereotypes that you are battling with internally, but you also are dealing with other people who are looking at you, even though they may not say it verbally. But that's what you feel, and you know that's kind of what's going on. So it was a constant battle with him, I felt like, and I just felt like Stephen said, that created this whole division between him and his family. Like, he loved his mom, but he didn't want his mom in his life as much, if that makes sense, because that was a reminder of, this isn't what I want. This is what I'm running away from.
I still feel like, yeah, he had him wanting this created a divide between that, but I still feel like you should centralize that. And like, what's the constant between both of them? You. So like, I think about kind of like accountability. Like, yeah, that made you feel like that, but what really deep inside made you feel like that? And so I genuinely think like it's just insecurities.
I don't think it's that easy though. You grow up in like that type of environment, everybody knows you're just not financially that well. It's like you just kind of have that insecurity, but it's not like.
I feel like it also ties into like self-esteem though. Like that can give you low self-esteem, and that's why he acted on it.
Possibly. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I do think I agree with Wendy. It's complicated. I guess complicated for me.
I'd say it's complicated. Just because, and I'm not from my personal perspective. Like my parents were the ones that quote unquote got out, and so when we go home, which for me is like maybe once every decade, to where they grew up, and they don't really share that part of their life, it is because one, they don't have the fondest memories always. And then two, when they come home, they have to prove their success every time they go home. So somebody's asking them for something or expecting something from them. We were considered rich, even though my parents were just military people. We weren't rich. They just weren't in that environment. And so that immediately when we went to St. Louis, my whole perspective had to change. The way I had to be extra careful about my manners and the way that I talked and how I presented myself, because I was a reflection of their success. Not necessarily that's the reality of how we lived, but we had to flip the script when we went home because that was just an unspoken known for us. And so I completely got why he felt that way. Because that's a lot of pressure. I won't even say that it's an insecurity. It's a lot of pressure to have to be the successful one. Right. And then go back to the regular life. Right. It's a lot of pressure.
It's just like biracial folks, black and white, trying to live in both worlds. Because then when you go home, it's like, oh, you sedated, you think you better than us. Yep. And I'm like, no, but this is just me. Like, so it's
living my life.
Yeah, I agree with Sean and Atrina. I get it, Fatana, that I get it that you didn't see it as a black issue, and that's definitely fine. But that does happen, when you go into these institutions, like you're trying to fit in, you are the black guy. Even when he met Celestial again for the first time, he was the one black guy at the table with all these white people. And, she's looking at him like, oh, so this is what you're, like, you have to play the part. I like the word when Trina said you flip the script. and that's what we're trained to do, unfortunately. Like, we have to flip the script. We have to play both sides. And it is a lot of pressure.
Oh,
You got to fit in and say, hey, I belong. A seat, like part 2 was a seat at the table. I know it wasn't in a sense of this, but I like that phrase. Like, he had to feel like he had a seat at the table, and he had to feel like he belonged. But at the same time, I understand what Sean and Katrina are talking about. When you go home, you don't want to stand out. You got to feel like you belong at home too. And yeah, you got out, but you can't make everybody else feel less than because they didn't get out.
But he has questions.
What do y'all think about when Roy was saying, "I'm not going to remind my kids that somebody died in order for me to do everyday things"? What do y'all think about that?
Well, yeah, I think I remember what you're talking about. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about. So he was saying like he doesn't have to. He's not going to constantly remind his kids that his ancestors died for some of the rights and some of the privileges that he has. I think, again, that kind of goes back to our conversation a little bit earlier, which I didn't like about Roy in that instance, but he is running away from stuff. So he's not only running away from his quote-unquote country life, but you're trying to like now separate yourself from the struggles of your ancestors. Your ancestors did do that. You cannot discredit, you can't diminish, you can't just say, okay, it happened, let's move on, because that way of thinking, and it's funny because now that way of thinking didn't prepare him for what he went through. He was a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. The author specifically, and that was one of the discussion questions, but the author specifically didn't distinguish the race of his accuser on purpose. But the fact that he was a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time, wrongfully convicted, and whatever case may be, that's what his ancestors were trying to fight against. So it was almost like full circle, and I don't want to use the word karma, but it was just kind of very ironic. I'll use that, ironic, in the sense that, he didn't want to, quote unquote, teach his kids about the struggles of a black man in society. And here he is, the walking depiction of a wrongfully accused black man in society. And it was just kind of ironic.
Okay, so Wendy, you were saying it's not right to you. Why you say that?
You just gotta know where you come from and why you might get treated a different way, and why you have to act a certain way around certain people. Like, you just have to know, like, your history, honestly. That's just what I think.
Okay, so when Roy was in prison and they were writing back their letters, and he's reminding her of his innocence, and she's an innocent party, and so forth. I guess this kind of goes back to my marriage question. Like, they had a kind of debate about love and commitment versus obligation. So do you kind of feel like love and obligation goes hand in hand?
I feel like she would think about herself. Period.
Or those damn doubts. But go ahead.
Walls, yeah. She was really being. I agree with everything she did, other than the fact that she left all communication out with Roy and just went and did her own life. Like, the man is in prison and his mom died, and you're just not going to tell him that you didn't freaking divorce him, but you're off here with another person. You can't just not say anything about that. You have to tell them, like, I'm going to look elsewhere, and I'm going to start dating, and I started dating, and blah, blah, blah. Like, she's just dirty for going ghost on him.
I personally feel she was never in love with him. Like, I think
Amen.
It was more like just the obligation, the convenience, the at the moment thing. Because personally, if I was in love, I would stick to that man till the end.
Right.
You know, like,
He wasn't gonna be in there until he died, but
right.
Yeah.
Also, they were just married 1 year.
and yeah, that's
Like,
why
that's
it's
like the honeymoon, or like the
Stage.
yeah, like that's like you're like so in love. I feel like if they had been married longer,
I think that in the beginning she was very. I think she was in love with Roy. Where they ready to get married? No. But I think she was in love with him, and he was in love with her. But in regards to like him being in prison and stuff, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that she tried in the beginning.
But she also, I guess for, go ahead. What are you about to say?
Celestial did not love Roy. Okay?
I agree.
Period. She did not love him. She loved what he represented. She loved that he was a successful black man who was on the come up. He was on the trajectory to be successful and to be the man that she had in her mind as what she wanted to be with. Period. The minute that it looked like he wasn't gonna get out, then she had checked out. I think she was staying with him out of obligation because her family had at that point loved Ray. And so what you're getting at home is he's such a good dude. You know, this is, you know, this is a innocent man and you should stand by your man, and that's what she's getting at home. So she's trying to play the game, but she knew she wasn't in love with him. And I feel like he brought this to her front door. He asked her if she was messing with Andre, and she said, I'm not even going to dignify that with an answer. Of course you're not, because you was always in love with Andre, but Andre didn't fit in your little box. And so once you realize that now you had to take on the real obligations of like his mother dying and you needing to be there for him, or you needing to see him and deal with this man's mood swings and ups and downs and emotions while he's in there and trying to hold it down, she didn't want that. And so the next best thing is Andre, who I also don't think she loved, but I think he presented what she wanted. He was stable, he was successful, he had his own home, and he was way more in love with her than she was with him. And he checked all the boxes. And so that's what I think. Celestial was a very selfish woman. I don't think that she knew what love is, and I don't think that she loved Roy or Andre. Period. I don't think she knew what love was to love someone.
And so I think that sometimes the unknowing festers in your mind, and it creates a fantasy. It creates something that's unrealistic. You know, I feel in his heart of hearts he knew that his marriage was over, but at the same time, because he was not served divorce papers, because you know, the door was, the key still works, even though she said don't come here, but you say don't come here, but my key still work. You know, I think all those played a part in his mind. Again, was he right or wrong? That goes back to the whole who's innocent, you know, who's right, you know, in the grand scheme of the whole book. Because like I said, we still have not talked about the love triangle part. But I mean, I do agree. He had some wrong in the fact of going there, but I think the more wrong was what you said, Celestial, and the fact that she did not communicate. And one of y'all's definition of marriage was communication, and you owed him that. You know, you don't say, hey, I can't continue being your wife, but then you don't send me divorce papers. You don't tell me why. You know, you still claim, oh, I'm going to be here. Now you're writing me. I'm now cutting off communication, but yet you're still writing me. So why are you still writing me for? Like, I'm now conflicted. Like, what do you want? Like, I didn't know you as a friend. Like, when we got together, we went on a date, we started dating. Like, that's the capacity that I know you of. But that goes to the Celestial as a person, because it goes to what Trina said. She was stringing Andre along, knowing that Andre had feelings for her. You know, you don't sleep with someone and then the day after say, you know, let's pretend it doesn't happen. And then, you know, y'all carry on this quote unquote friendship for all these years. You know Andre had these feelings for you. You know Roy had these feelings for you. But again, I agree with 100% the word that you use. She's selfish. She goes, you know, with the moment, what's best for her. You know, Roy was convenient at the time. You know, he, like you said, checked all the boxes. He's a protector. He chased down the robber. I could really bang with this dude. I like him. I love him. Not in love with him, because there's a difference. But I do believe that she did love Roy, but she was not in love with Roy. I do believe that she loves Andre, but I don't know if she's in love with Andre either. But she has these two men who are in love with her and fighting for her, and she doesn't know how to love, like you said. She's selfish. So
She still didn't even respect Roy enough to sit him down and tell him what she felt. She sent Andre to do it. Like, what the hell? Like,
So shady.
yes.
I think Andre, he's the one that was like, no, I want to do it. I don't think Celeste was like, I'm not giving her the benefit of the doubt. I'm just saying.
I smack my teeth with that. I hate it. I really do.
Like, she could have stepped up and been like, no, there's something I got to do. But she was like, she mentioned it. She was like, I think I should be the one to go. And Andre was like, no, like, I want to do this. Like,
Yeah, but they had already sat down and discussed that he was going to do it. So that's why I feel like, as a woman, you have to give that man some kind of respect. That man is doing time. Either if we know or not, innocent or guilty, he did time in jail. The least you could have done is, because you could be woman enough and say, you know what, Andre, it's my responsibility. It's not yours. I'm gonna go and see.
Well, first of all,
and if it was go to Christian's point, like Celestial even said, you said that Celestial was tried. Yes, quote unquote, she tried, quotation mark. But she even said that she much rather Andre go. She wanted him to do the legwork. He had been a ghost in her mind for the last 2 years. So, she knew of Roy and the memories they had, but he was a ghost. And she wanted Andre to quote unquote put that ghost out. If Andre goes, tells him what he is, she wanted him never even to step foot back in Atlanta. She said in the book, she said, I hope he just sends for his boxes. He sends for his things and we don't have to talk about it. So it won't that she wanted to go. Like, no, she did not want to go. She wanted someone to do her dirty work because, again, it was convenient for her to do so. Let's use the word that we've been using, convenient. Everything that Celestial's been doing is about convenience. Who's the warm body next to her that can do what she wants to do? And that's what it was. As soon as Roy went in and he wanted the warm body next to her, she found the next warm body. And
let's be clear, she was married to Roy. I don't care how she felt. She was married to Roy. Andre was not married to Roy. He didn't owe Roy anything the way that Celestial did. On a friendship level, yes. But as far as who I entered matrimony with, I married you. If you don't have the balls to come up here yourself, since you want to be a big girl, put on your big girl panties and go and tell this man that, yes, the very thing you thought was happening is happening. So this is done. And so please don't come back. And I'm glad you're home.
Yeah, I think the boys are stupid as well for even wanting to be with somebody like Celestial, because you should be able to tell these points about her. And Andre should be able to tell that she's just a selfish person. And if you looked at these actions, if you just if you were Andre and Roy, and if you were in the situation, it's hard to tell who's right or wrong when you're in the situation. But if they just took a step back to the bigger picture, I know it's just a story, but if they took a step back to the bigger picture, they'd be able to see how much Celestial wouldn't really be able to fulfill them and love them truly. Because Celestial is all about herself and in so many different ways.
Here's my thing though. Okay, so I'm not disagreeing. I don't think she's a good person, but I think she sent Andre because she knew if she was the one to talk to Roy, she would give in and just go back to him, because that's what she did.
She was true.
So she knew if he was just let's just try it, she would give in. Because she's like, I owe you this. You're my husband. And that's what ended up happening. And then he knew that's not what she wanted. He saw that that's not what she wanted, and it got a divorce. So I think that's why she sent him. Honestly, I think Roy's a dick. I'll say it. I think Roy's a dick.
I was about to mention the question, but
first time, I think he's a dick. That's the first thing I told you, wasn't
Whitney,
it?
you're speaking out.
No, it just pissed me off. Even when he comes to see her and he just is persisting, he's like, oh, come on. He's just and she's clearly uncomfortable. So she just gives in. And
it is his house though.
That's emotional. Because it's he even when she goes to the prison and they talk about the abortion, he makes it her fault. He tries to blame it on her. It's no, you're not
the one that was I don't want a kid being brought into this world if I can't be a part of it.
Exactly. And then it's he was supposed to be away for 12 years. it's like,
I agree with Wendy. Just like how Sean saw like the black stereotypes, I saw a lot of gender stereotypes in this book. In terms of like Roy thinking like he has some sort of list of things he needs to hit to be a man and to be the man type thing, and then how Celestial was acting sometimes and the stuff she was allowing to happen just felt like she was letting herself play such a.
What are y'all laughing at?
He was walking so
I
quietly.
said, make sure when you come in, you don't make noise.
He was like this.
That did spark a question that I'll have after we finish this discussion, but I did remember a question that I had. But I think Denise had a question too. Denise, did you have a question too?
No, I was going to go back to the question where we had left off. But no, we're fine. Roy is a dick.
Go ahead.
I'm expecting his wife.
from the beginning, like he was like trying to like shame her for certain things she would do, and like I don't know. I just from the beginning remember that one day I came over and I had just read the first 2 chapters and I was like, I hate Roy. And then Christian was like, no, just keep reading. No, to the fucking end. I was like, fuck Roy, he's a dick.
In the beginning, I will say I liked him. I remember being like telling you guys, I'm like, oh, the only parts I like of the book are Roy's part. But then towards the end, I was like, no, I hate them all.
I hate them all, actually. You know what? I don't like one of them.
I am empathetic to Roy. So I'm empathizing with him because I feel like out of everyone in this book, he is the only one with a true reason to act the way he did when he came home. That is a very emotional thing that he went through. Can you imagine being wrongfully convicted and you're in jail by yourself, and then 3 years in, your wife, your ride or die, the person who claimed they would be there, decides to tell you, no, I don't want to be with you anymore, and that's it, but I'll still pay for your legal fees. And then you finally get out, so you feel vindicated at some point, but then you come home, and the life that you have been talking about, resuming and moving forward in, and that you've still been supporting her with her little dolls made out of socks, you come home, and it's like you never even existed in her world. You know what I'm saying? And so he's the only one that I had empathy for. As far as Andre, you get what you deserved. I was so glad when Roy knocked him around that front yard, because that's what you get. Period. Because you lied to this man, and that was your friend. You came to see him while he was locked up. You carried his mama's casket, and you couldn't tell him the truth about how you felt about his wife. And then on top of that, Celestial, you could have been honest. What was he going to do to you from jail? If you really thought he was going to still be in there and you really thought that there was no vindication for him, then you tell him the truth.
In jail. Like, do you feel like the fact that they did not have kids, did that play a part in ruining or killing the relationship between Roy and Celestial? Because Roy did say, hey, when I came home from prison, if there was a little Trey in the background, then I would have a leg to stand on and say, hey, I have a family. Like, I'm fighting for my family. But, you know, because he came out of prison, it was just Celestial, who, in fact, have already moved on. He really didn't have a fight. So I don't know.
Roy, go ahead, Atrina.
I feel very strongly that Celestial made decisions, especially in areas that would deeply affect her, that she felt would benefit her. I think before Ray went to jail, she was already thinking about leaving him. And so why would I then tether myself to this man who, wrongly convicted or not, I really don't want? So I'm not going to have your baby, because one of the things that struck me was he tried to talk to her about the fact that they ended the pregnancy and she wouldn't talk about it. And her thing was, you know, you're not going to put this on me. This was both of our decisions. And he's like, but I'm telling you that I said that to you because I didn't want to put that weight on you. But I saw you get relieved when I said we couldn't do that. And then you turn around at the end of this book and you're writing this man who you knew wanted children so badly about the fact that you are pregnant by your quote unquote best friend. I feel like she made that decision very strategically. She didn't want to have kids with Ray, who was now going to be a prisoner, was not going to be able to check off those boxes for her anymore. And so therefore she goes with the next best option. Andre can check off all of those boxes.
Jane Fonda.
And she continue making her top dolls and live pretty.
I agree with everything you just said, and it brings me back to when I said that it was ironic because I thought she never wanted to have kids, but she ended up having the baby. And Roy, at the end of his on the epilogue, he was like, a kid shouldn't have to determine if you're going to stay together or not. It shouldn't, like, make or break a relationship. And I was like,
hell yeah.
It's just, like, it was all ironic.
You know what we're all forgetting? What? Okay, the way she views relationship, the way she views love, got fucked up when she fucked with that professor. He told her, I'm gonna leave my wife. She got pregnant, and then he was like, no.
Hey, Jada.
No, fuck Jada. She was in the wrong.
We're not getting into that right now.
But I'm just saying, like, she was so young, like, and like we got into this with the whole Hillary and
We did. We had a whole debate,
yes.
but in the Monica realistic,
there is a power dynamic, and it's like that fucked her up. She like left school, she couldn't go back. So I think that did just like fuck her up.
Okay, but why do? Okay, so.
It's excuse it, but it gives a reason.
I think that's why she acts the way
But
she
you're
does.
giving an excuse.
It's not an excuse. It's just
reason why she acts the way she does.
Okay, but she's an adult. She decided at that time when she was a student that I want to engage with this person.
I wouldn't say
I
she
did.
consciously was evil, but subconsciously she made those decisions.
Okay, but there's like, okay, but we too often give, I just feel like personally, we too often give passes to the fact, oh, they're young. But a lot of young people come with vindictive perspectives. They come to take advantage of, use older individuals because they think the older individuals need this attention, X, Y, and Z. And when it doesn't pan out the way they want, we say, okay, well, they were young, they were stupid, they were taken advantage of.
I think it's lack of wisdom, not
I
vindictive.
think it is, okay, she was what, a freshman?
Yeah.
Okay, so she admired him. That was like what her like. She admired what the fuck he was all about. So it's like she fell in love with the idea of him, and he was like, oh, she's into me. Let me like play into this because he's probably done it before. So she fell in love. They were hooking up, and she got pregnant. And it's like that just really messed her up, and that messed up the whole idea of relationships. And like,
But does that go back to the warped sense of what a relationship is? Because that's exactly what happened with her daddy and her mama. Her mom was sleeping around with her dad. He was married. She got pregnant, and he left his wife for her mom because she said she was in the wedding picture because they went to the justice of the peace. Is it possible that she full willingly knew he was married and put herself in this position and knew the outcome and was hurt? Not because, she was naive and was used, but because it didn't work out the way that she thought a love story was going to work out for her, like her parents. And so now you're going to do whatever you feel is necessary to make you come out better on the other end. It could have jaded her, but I can't give her, I didn't know when he was married. No, you thought because this is how your parents had glorified their relationship to you that this was okay. Because I don't care how old, at 18, 19 years old, if a man came to you and said, I'm married, you know what that means. You're not naive to that. You know what that is. I don't care if you're a freshman in college. You know what that is. Somebody's married. That's not yours.
Oh, if you could be a character in the book, who would you be?
No one?
No one.
Hold on, I'm gonna think about this.
Oh, I know who I'll be. I know who I'll be because I love him towards the end. I'll be Roy Sr. when Andre came to the house and he was like, oh, the phone doesn't work.
Okay, I'll answer too. So if I could be any person in the book, I would be Andre, actually. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to do everything that Andre did in the book. If I was Andre, I would have spoke up a lot sooner. If that's your woman and you want her, you tell her before she gets married. You lay it down, and if she can't accept you for all that, then you just leave it alone. I believe that Andre, like I said, I resonate with Andre's story. Did I like him in the book? No. But I would choose Andre in the sense that he really, really like, not to be deep, but I have known people where, you've been in love with them for a long time, old childhood love, whatever case may be, but you tell them. And if it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. Would I have been like, oh, because they've moved on, am I going to ruin their relationship? No, whatever case may be. But I would have been Andre and been noble, a more noble version of Andre. So that's where I would have been.
Everybody know
I
one?
made my decision. I would be nobody.
Will anyone be anyone? Anyone else be anyone?
I think I would be Celestial. I would want to change a lot of things that she did, but not necessarily the ending. I think the ending had to end the way it actually did. But I would have wanted to just change certain things from her. So I would want to be her.